The degradation of the ring. What Jake Paul versus AJ tells us about masculinity and the spectacle. Welcome back to Systems and Questions with me, Serena, a place for us to reflect on complexity in the world of flux. In this episode, which is also a Substack piece, I'm going to talk about how I recently analysed the AJ and Jake Paul boxing match for both of my YouTube channels from a brand impact perspective. And I kept coming back to one central question, especially considering there's been a selection of controversial fights that have taken place in recent months and years. What are we actually watching here? I didn't think, I don't think this was about whether Jake Paul can fight or whether AJ still has it. I think it was about the spectacle completely overwhelming the sport when influencer fights athlete, in the case of Jake Paul, and when young fights old, in the case of Jake Paul and Tyson, but also Chase and Andrew Tate. I wonder whether there is a preservation of the sport. Like, where is the preservation of the sport in this? The respect for strength, the principle of only fighting an opponent who can actually handle your strength. Perhaps traditionally that mattered. There was an ethic in these sorts of combat sports. I remember watching fights in the 80s and 90s with my late father, all of them. Frank Bruno, Mike Tyson, the list goes on. And with that sort of traditional, I suppose, traditional ethic, you prove yourself against worthy opponents and you don't showcase your power by dominating someone clearly beneath your level. Some would say that's not strength. Some could say it's bullying with a budget, bullying with a payment structure. So then there's the gladiator and the emperor. What we're seeing is theatre. The gladiators in the ring and the promoter as emperor deciding who lives and who dies, metaphorically speaking. There's something primal about this that pulls at us, at audiences. We can accept that the hunger for the fight is ancient, it's archetypal. Audiences wish to watch men test themselves physically, to see strength and will, the strength and the will under pressure. But here's the issue: we have a conflicting desire, which is for legitimate sport, for fair competition, for the honor in combat, not just a thirst for a spectacle or an entertaining bloodbath. And that's what makes this moment, I think, so revealing. The audience still has that hunger for genuine martial art competition, but what they're being served is predetermined theatre masquerading as sport. It keeps all the aesthetic trappings, the violence, the physiques, the pageantry, and perhaps throws away the honour. This mismatch perverts the whole thing. It satisfies the surface craving for combat while being fundamentally empty, hollow even. So, what does this do to masculinity? And this is what I was reflecting on. And I think this is where it can get deeper. And of course, we should get deeper, and where I think we could do well to pay attention. This is happening at a moment where, when young men are reportedly struggling, a so called male mental health and loneliness epidemic, young men trying to figure out what healthy masculine identity even looks like, what purpose means, what strength is for. And into that vacuum comes this spectacle that looks like a demonstration of masculine virtue, but is actually teaching something else entirely. You see, real sporting competition requires respecting your opponent's ability, acknowledging limits, age disparities, experience gaps, proving yourself against someone who can genuinely challenge you, who might even beat you. These aren't arbitrary rules. They're what transform a fight into something that's of virtue. It's what makes it about excellence. So when you strip that away, but keep the aesthetic, the muscular bodies, the aggression, the winner loser binary, a distorted lesson is being taught about what masculine strength actually is. It becomes about the spectacle, attention for the attention economy. It becomes about the appearance of strength and dominance rather than earned respect. And crucially, it loses the humility that comes from genuinely testing yourself against a worthy opponent. Let's look at the cultural impact. For young men navigating what masculinity means, I think this matters. If the cultural message is that gaming the system for clicks and money while calling it fighting is admirable, that legitimacy doesn't matter as long as you win, that respecting your opponent's limitations is actually optional, and those lessons extend far beyond the ring. Do we respect levels of ability anymore? Do we respect what age means? When we're willing to watch older bodies absorb damage for spectacular entertainment, there's a callousness there, a failure of the kind of protective instinct that used to be considered deeply masculine. Boxing isn't everything, obviously. There are many forms of masculinity, many ways to demonstrate strength and character, but as a visceral, glorified representation that millions tune in to watch, what is this spectacle actually doing culturally? So here are the questions. The promoter as emperor manufactures spectacle while extracting the competitive soul from it. And maybe that's fine if we're honest about what we're watching. It's entertainment, it's theatre, it's a show. But I don't think we are being honest. I think we're still calling it sport. We're still framing it as a test of masculine strength. And we're still using the language of honor and competition. And that confusion, the gap between what this is and what we're calling it, that's potentially where the damage happens. And we see that psychological trap taking place in many facets of our lives, in many facets of society. So, what are we actually watching? What are we teaching? And what kind of masculinity are we celebrating when the matchup itself lacks any sporting legitimacy, in my opinion? So these are questions worth sitting with, and why I write and produce for this podcast, Systems and Questions. If you're new to my podcast and to my channel and to my content, I'm Serena. I've been in media and comms for more than 20 years. I'm a creative as well. I write, I ponder, I reflect. I'm doing my postgrad in systems thinking, and I'm also a chartered public relations practitioner. I've been in comms for a great deal of time, and I like to create content that prompts us to think and reflect. And it's why I provide commentary on media and politics, as well as have a dedicated YouTube channel for thinkers, for students, for those who have brands, for entrepreneurs, called Serena's Playbook, to really help you level up your strategic thinking. For now, I do appreciate you listening and perhaps watching, and do all those wonderful things. Please follow, thumbs up, comment, like, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts on the questions that have been posed here in this episode. And have a wonderful seasonal break, whatever you're doing and however you're spending it. And I'll catch you in the next one.